Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a Football Manager 2024 experiment. Today we will be looking at what happens when you give a team perfect facilities. Don't worry, I changed that in future saves, but yeah, perfect facilities, 150k capacity, and yeah, that's Scarborough Athletic. They'll be Team 1 in the save, and we also have South Shields, who basically just have as much money as they possibly can have in this game, front end backer, general income that should keep money coming into the club. And the only thing that might be an issue with them is their reputation. We'll see how that affects them and whether they can sign players to get out the league. And yeah, first we're going to sim 1 year into the future to see how our teams get on in the first year. So in the first year of the experiment, there was no promotion for either team. South Shields finished in third place and Scarborough in ninth. So if you look at South Shields, didn't, they only spent 8 grand, which honestly not bad. If you look at their player wages, £7,000 in the National League North is pretty insane. So I doubt they will not spend money on wages in the future. And this guy, he's 35 years old. He's on 7.5 grand a week pretty much. He's not very good, is he? I mean, 80 current ability. On the other hand, if you look at Scarborough here, they've got some okay players, but they've got 3 guys who are gonna be real world beaters throughout the save. Jason Rooney, I mean, they're not very good at the minute and they're all wanted by other teams. So it's more than likely that Scarborough are going to decide to transfer them. That would be unfortunate, but they're not at a level right now where they can hold on to these players for very long. So if you look at their under 21s, yeah, they're producing a bunch of like pretty decent prospect players, which will hopefully they'll be able to bring in some money, help them get up the leagues. Yeah, the first year South Shields lost in the playoffs, and that was to Tamworth. Oh no, Scunthorpe. Never mind. Uh, okay, so we're gonna go another year in the future, see if either team can get promoted. So, looking at the second year of the experiment, you'll be able to see that South Shields have got themselves promoted up to the Vanarama National League. And if we take a look at their senior squad, they've got players on pretty high wages. 7.25 grand for this level of football is insane, especially on a fringe player. 36-year-old fringe player. And if we look at their transfer history, spent 28k, brought in a lot of players on frees from Football League clubs and around National League level. They eventually won the playoffs against who? Against Tamworth in the final after missing out the year before. And Scarborough have come in 10th again. However, they've still managed to hold on to their younger players with high potential for now. So Jason Rooney, he is pretty good. Actually, 90 current ability, this level that's good. 169 potential ability, but they're all wanted by he's wanted by 2 clubs actually. Under 21's still producing good players for this level, or at least potential wise, that'll develop. And yeah, they've managed to get themselves promoted by having really high wages. Scarborough haven't, but we'll see what happens in another 3 years when we come back to do our 5 year check-in. We're now 5 years into the future, and as you can see in the first season, South Shields getting relegated down in 22nd on their first try to survive. So if you look at the National League North and go back to then, that's where we last were. And then Scarborough actually pushing up to third there. Unfortunately didn't win in the playoffs. And then Shields and Scarborough both going up at once, with Scarborough actually winning the league ahead of South Shields. And then if you look at how they've been doing since then, their first season, 15th and 16th respectively. With Shields, they have they're paying a lot of money, £16,000 a week for this guy. He's albeit pretty good. Thankfully, leaving the club to get some money off their wage bill. The other people they're paying a lot of money to aren't that great. I mean, good for this level, but they're not worth the money. If you look at their transfer history, it's spending. Actually, to be fair, they've sold a lot of players there. So it seems mostly their wage bill has been impacted so far. And they're just slowly making their way up the leagues. Take a look at Scarborough. They have the players pretty much cap at about 150 potential, which means the good ones they did have been sold probably by now. Look at the under 21 squad, yeah, they've got a couple 16-year-olds. Apart from that, not much. Nothing that'll get them promoted right now, though, from the looks of things. If you look at their transfers, have they got any big fees? No, they're selling them on super cheap as well. Which, how much did that Rooney guy go for? Yeah, he went for 17k to Leicester, and he's now worth £20 million. Which pretty much means until they get to the Football League, they're just going to keep getting rinsed for their best players every couple of years. Which is a shame, but it's going to happen until they get themselves promoted. For the next part of this experiment, we'll jump ahead 5 years to take us to 10 in total. And that should be a fairly sizable jump to see them get in the Football League. We're now 10 years into the future, and where we left off, they'd finished lower mid-table in the National League. As you can probably see, they're no longer there, but if you look ahead, they had a terrible run here, pretty woeful start to the season, but went on and had a couple good months around February, particularly towards the end of the year. And they reached the playoff semi-final where they lost to Halifax. The year after that, they won a lot of games throughout the year. Didn't have that awful bit of patchy form at the start. They had this here, but it's not bad. At least not bad enough to put them off of promotion, and I believe they won the league. Yeah. Okay, so their first year in League Two didn't go amazingly. Actually, their start to the league campaign was incredible and probably saved them. Oh, they played Scarborough there, which means they went up as well at some point. But yeah, they probably finished. Check their overview. They finished 16th that year in League Two. The year after, a lot of the same, slight improvement, not having that awful run of form. And the year after, they won enough games to secure promotion to League One this year. If you take a look at their transfer history, yeah, they've been spending 500k, 200k, it's been all over the place, to be honest. They brought in money, sold a lot of people. If you look at where Scarborough are, assuming they're in League Two, yeah, look at them, go back to where we were. So they stayed in the National League for a while, and then eventually won the playoffs. What year was that? 2030? Oh, they both went up together. Cool. So Scarborough have gone up, and they've done kind of average. They did make a playoff final there, but lost to Sutton. And then kind of just floated around a bit since then. Um, yeah, and they find themselves in League Two still. They've had a 14th place, 7th, and 14th again, so pretty mid-table. Take a look at what's their team looking like? They've got no players with potential like they did at the start. Wow, 139, 138. Yeah, they either just aren't producing the players or they've been rinsed. If you look, they did sell someone here for a lot of money. Yeah, 700k. Yeah, he came through as Scarborough, Norwegian. He's not very good. They've had Birmingham on there, but yeah. So I can't tell if they're selling a lot of players who are like high potential, or if they're just not producing any. They look like they're selling a lot of just average players. So I have a feeling that just for some reason they're not producing enough wonder kids to actually make an impact. It's not in their finances. I mean, if you look at how much money they've got £1 million in the bank. Oh wait, no, they've got 11 million. There must be some sizable sell-on fees somewhere then. Look at their transfer history, yeah, loans. I mean, that's 10 years, they've just about made it into League One, Shields have, and now Scarborough is pretty comfortable in League Two. So we'll jump another 10 years in the future to bring it up to 20. Hopefully we'll start to see some teams in the Premiership by then. We're now 20 years into the experiment, and looking at the Premier League, I don't see either of our clubs which, if they're not in the Premier League, where are they? So they're both in the Championship. Okay, so we'll start with Scarborough this time, and we'll go back. They've only been in the Championship for 2 years now, and God, they've been horrendous this year. Although, yeah, League One they were fine. They were horrendous that year. Pretty bad the next year. Where did they finish? I'm assuming close to the bottom. Yeah, Scarborough surviving twice, and we've seen South Shields go up to the Premier League. We'll take a look at that in a minute. So you look at Scarborough's squad. It's mostly loanees. They have one good goalkeeper. And this kid, 142 potential. Although he's a real player. He's not even from Scarborough. Oh, weighs 32 as well. I didn't read that bit. Yeah, Scarborough. So they came up from League Two in the about 7 years ago now. Pretty much was always lower mid-table in League One, and then just had a push year where they won the league, then just about scraping by in the Championship each year. If you take a look at South Shields now, then we've got. So they've been in the Premier League. So look at an overview. They spent a long time in League One. So they got promoted to League One when we last left off, and they spent, what's that, 6 years in League One before eventually coming second to get promoted. But they had a lot of time in the playoffs as well. They was in it 3 different times they lost in the playoffs before finally getting automatic promotion, and they've actually been pretty good in the Championship since they came up, and then came second in the Championship, immediately relegated. Let's take a look at that season. So that was last year. They came second bottom, 22 points. That's pretty poor. Actually, really poor. So if you look at how they've done in the Championship, though, they came up like 3 years ago. So yeah, second, fifth, and before that they came 12th. So if we want to see how they've done this, how much have they spent throughout their time. Oh yeah, they start spending money now. So God, they spent 25 million quid to get out of League One on some pretty meh players, but oh, they actually bought Jason Rooney, ironically, before the guy retired, and then they brought in 72 million pounds worth of players in their first year in the Championship. Who was their most expensive signing? Obviously, this was nearly like 3 or 4 years ago, so he would have been a bit better than, yeah, probably about 135 maybe. Yeah, brought in a lot of players. Brought in less this time. Sold 7 million, so that's not that bad. Although still 25 million quid for a fairly small team. Then 50 million pounds. God, yeah, they're spending a lot of money to get where they are. Then in the Premier League, they just didn't spend anything. At least not compared to what they were spending. You'd think they'd drop like 100 million pounds in their first year. They just didn't. Their most expensive signing being this guy, who he's not bad, but he's not really Premier League ready. If you look at what Scarborough are doing and look at their transfer history, you'll see, yeah, they've not spent a whole lot of money. And they're selling a lot some years as well, which makes me think maybe they're bringing in some players, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, for the last 10 years, they've kind of just been. The most they spent is 1 million quid, and they're now in the same league as South Shields, anyways, albeit scraping by. If you look at the last 10 years of League One, and both these were in it, I mean, Scarborough were kind of just lying about there after coming up from League Two. And so far, both teams are in the Championship on pretty much even ground. So we'll have to see in the final jump, which is going to be a 15-year jump. Well, we're going to see, will any of them sustain themselves in the Premier League? So we are now 35 years into the future, and as you can probably tell, South Shields qualified for the Champions League. I don't see Scarborough though. That's kind of worrying. We'll take a look at where Scarborough are. Yeah, they're still decent in the Championship, established side. So they've kind of petered out to just become mid-table in the Championship. So if we first take a look at Shields, what on earth is going on with them? So after we left off and they got relegated, they got promoted again, relegated again. Promoted, third time lucky, stayed up, and then just built on it, finished 3rd, 8th, 11th, and 4th. And they've actually won 2 Carabao Cups and a Conference League during their time in the Premier League. So at this point they've spent 7 years in the Premier League, most of those probably in Europe. If we go back 7 years, their first season in the league was pretty bad. Did they win the Carabao Cup? I can't tell, did they? Nah, they lost in the semi-final. This is the year they came down. Back to the Premier Division, and yeah, you've got a Carabao Cup knocked out in the semi-final again. Year after, they were. Oh wait, no, did they win it? Oh yeah, they did win it versus Southampton. And then after that, in the Europa Conference League, lost to Lille on penalties. Sadly, there was no cup run this season, I don't think. was there. Lost in quarterfinals on penalties. They just don't like penalties. So if you look at yeah, so this must have been where they came third in the league, because they qualified for the ECL this year. Didn't win the FA Cup, but they lost in the Carabao Cup again. In the Champions League, how did they do that year? 2054. Did they qualify for the first round proper? Must have been this year. Yeah, South Shields, they qualified to the Champions stage, and then if you look at League Path, yeah, they would have gone straight to the round of 16, where they lost to Benfica, sadly, despite doing so well in the group. And then the year after that, they were in the Conference League again, because I assume they won a cup here. Did they just finish in the league? Must have just been the league. Yeah, in the Conference League. And they actually went on to win it that year. That was 24-55. Oh, I had no idea. Yeah, they beat Servette in the final, who were, yeah, Servette. Year after in the Europa League, knocked out in the round of 16, ironically, to Lille again. And back in the Champions League, how did they do in 58? Oh, that was this year. Oh, knocked out by Southampton. Brilliant. Okay, so what have they spent to do this? Because it must have been, go back 15 years to 43. This is where they spent 52 million, 51. This is where they start spending a lot of money. 100 million, 60 million, 115, nearly 300 million, albeit on very good players. I mean, this guy, he's like nuts. And then the year after, 240 million on this guy. He's now 34. Not very good anymore. Hmm. They made some. They made a lot of signings. Probably, if I had to guess, in total, they spent close to £1 billion on players, and their wage bill is going to be, oh wow, 550k. This guy's on. Yeah, if you look at, is there a way to see wages? Let's look at sponsorship income first. Yeah, they've not got a very high sponsorship income, even though they're in the Champions League. I'm also curious, did they? Yeah, they did. They built their facilities up to a point where there's not that much difference between theirs and Scarborough's, albeit their attendance is pretty low. They're also charging £2,000 for a season ticket. That doesn't seem right, but inflation's a bitch, I guess. Anyways, looking at where Scarborough are, who have facilities, finished ninth recently. What did they do after we left off? Okay, so they have been in the Premiership in 20th, 47-48. Let's look at that year. Okay, they came rock bottom. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, they came up to the Championship and they finished 21st 4 years in a row before finally making a push up, and they've been mid-table ever since. They've not made the playoffs since getting relegated. They've not been close to relegation really, apart from 18th. And they've really done nothing noteworthy over the years. I mean, they're spending money, they're selling a lot of players though, albeit not young talented players anymore. So maybe they're actually keeping them and using them nowadays, which is how they've become a championship team. Still not spending a lot of money. Still occasionally bringing in big transfer fees. This kid, they rips left Leicester off for like £8 million. Again, just it's low transfer fees. They spent nothing that year. What year were they in 53? Oh, what league in 53, 54? God, they spent nothing in the championship. That's mental. 6.25. There's very few years where they're making serious losses. So at least they're like a fairly stable team. Top paid guy is £56,000 a week. Not bad, to be fair. They've got some good players in on loan. Some good players just generally at the club as well. Albeit, how many of them are from Scarborough? No idea. This guy, their best players aren't even from Scarborough, who they do have high potential on. They're under 21s. Still, it's just mediocre and not a whole lot of much to comment on. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they've just been mediocre for the past 10 years. Look at where they got promoted. So the 46-47 season, that was 10 years ago now, 11 years. Look at their Cinco profile. Look at this. Yeah, they finally won the playoff in 46-47, and Brentford have Europa League football. Okay, lovely. Here they came up together. I think that really concludes it. Having as much money as you need, it's a lot better than just having perfect facilities in FM, because eventually you'll force your way up through high wages. But yeah, Scarborough, they're still not filling the ground or anywhere near close. 12,000 people that season. What's it like now? Yeah, 26,000 people in the stadium. It's got 150,000 seats, so that's probably not a whole lot. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more experiments, and if so, what exactly. I am out.